President Trump has said that we should end USAID. He's absolutely right. And I don't like doing this. I don't like pretending to be a soothsayer. I don't like pretending to say I can see the future. I can just observe patterns. I don't know how many times I have predicted that we're going to find out that the Mockingbird media had a certain source of money that they didn't want us to know about. It turns out we now know about this source of money. And we also know that thing I've said in a phrase I trademarked long ago. I trademarked the phrase, the propaganda of silence. That's real. I mean, it was obviously real, but your tax dollars actually helped create official programs to direct strategic propaganda of silence techniques to make sure that Americans don't know certain things. Yes, follow the money to the corruption trail and look at your money, the money in your retirement accounts, the money in your home equity, the money in your savings account, the money in your business. If you're 5, 10, even 15 years from retirement, you're about to see the biggest shift in the American economy that maybe has ever happened. It's not just the unveiling of this massive amount of corruption and hopefully doing something about it. It's President Trump's commitment to make us the dominant energy exporter in the world, up to and including creating micro-nuclear stations in the United States of America, which could drive energy prices down. And energy is the economy, and the economy is driven by energy. So certainly this is going to be great for everybody. Maybe. If your retirement account is not actively managed, I struggle to understand how on earth you would take advantage of this. And if your account is not set up for risk management, I can't possibly understand how you could not possibly get burned in such an economy. Fortunately, you can get a second opinion on your retirement, and it's free, and there's no obligation whatsoever. Go to knowyourriskradio.com. My friend and brother, Zach Abraham, the chief investment officer of that company, will meet with you in person, on video, via phone. He'll look at your retirement hopes, and he'll tell you if you're set up for that, and if your account is actively managed, which can reduce risk and volatility, and if it's set up for risk management. It's free, no obligation. KnowYourRiskRadio.com or call 866-779-RISK. Bulwark Capital Management is an investment advisor representative of Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24-103. It's not something I like to do because it reminds me of the old days of radio where we come on and say, the Todd Herman Show really focuses on some things, but we do. There is a phrase that I created in radio, and it was one of the greatest, most satisfying days of my life in radio because I spoke a monologue about this on the Rush Limbaugh program. Thank you, Rush. God rest you. I did a whole monologue about the propaganda of silence and that it's the single most important tool that the Mockingbird media has at their disposal. Because if an event doesn't happen and your conservative friends are saying it happened, your conservative friends are nuts. When I did that monologue, one of the most satisfying moments of my life was seeing a tweet go out by my friend James Golden, who you knew as Bo Snerdley on Rush's show. James does a very successful radio program at a WABC New York now, incredibly kind man. And he put up on Twitter one of the most important monologues I've ever heard, Todd Herman's brilliant theory of the propaganda of silence. You must hear this. That's true. There was a propaganda of silence, and it was, in fact, being paid for. President Trump had said that we should end USAID. He talked about it being a corrupt entity. He said it had been a good idea that ended up being perverted. We'll get to that in a second. Before that, we'll get some Democrats, et cetera, defending it because they're freaked out. We have learned that the thing I'd also predicted is a fact. The Mockingbird media was getting your tax dollars. We knew it had gone to the BBC through USAID. Turns out, according to Kyle Becker News, from the database, the AP was also getting money, raking in millions of dollars in government money for years. The great news is this. If you take government money, you just signed up for government oversight. Every single senior news editor with the Associated Press should be subpoenaed right now. They should be brought before a committee, and they should be told to answer questions about why they took this money, what they did with it, and we should demand every and all email from them to any government official at all, and we should begin examining what the government was paying them for. We understand from the USAID data that there was a report in the BBC that was sent to attack Elon Musk. We know about targeted attacks on Rudy Giuliani. We know, of course, about the coordination with the Mockingbird media that was evident before our eyes in many other big topics. It also turns out, as we were recording, and I think this was just a couple of days, or just a day ago, we were recording, and my producer, Alex, said, oh, hey, by the way, did you see the Politico can't pay their employees because of a mistake? A mistake? Like the fact that apparently they had received $8.1 million in government money. Maybe that money stopped flowing. Now, I've spoken for years about the Politico business model, which is open lobbying. They do these events in Washington, D.C., where you pay a huge amount of money to sit at a table to hear a great woman like Hillary Clinton talk about all the great things Hillary Clinton has done and the great vision that Hillary Clinton has for the country and the great things that Hillary Clinton has done for you and her greatness and how great she is. And then she talks some more about how great she is. And then you get to meet her. Or you get to sit at a VIP table with her and hand her your business card. And what do? I clean hard drives. I don't know why you'd want to know that, but I do. It's matchmaking between companies and politicians. And here's the Politico on top of this. Taking a rake. Taking a rake off of a lobbying event. So the corruption has been clear to me for a very, very long time. I'm not saying that the Politico couldn't pay their employees because they knew the USAID money's not coming in, but it's an interesting bit of timing, isn't it? Chris Van Hollen joined a lot of other Democrat elected officials who went to the USAID offices. Now, I don't want to say, well, let's say, did they storm the offices?
As you probably saw, Elon Musk and his crew put a gag order on AID employees. They disconnected them from email, which is putting lives at risk around the world. So we are here to enter the building and so we can hear firsthand from whoever is here at AID, or at least witness firsthand what is happening with this Elon Musk attempted takeover, which will not stand. We will prevail. Let's go.
Oh, but they are going to storm the doors. I love the compliant media. There's C-SPAN, which of course we know is tied to the government. Oh, how exciting. We will win. Later, Chucky Schumer came out and chanting in that exhausted voice of his, we will win. It's bedtime. They were taking our money to pay the Taliban to create poppies for heroin. They were propagating and promoting atheism, I think in Nepal, in countries with a long heritage of pottery as art. They were teaching pottery classes. In our country, they were underwriting the campaigns for city districts attorneys who refused to prosecute crime. In other words, prosecutors who would not prosecute. They gave twice as much money to those efforts than did George Soros, and they were called Soros prosecutors. Apparently, they should have been called USAID prosecutors. They were paying media entities like the BBC for an outcome. We don't know the outcome they were seeking with the Associated Press in paying them. We don't know the outcome they were seeking with apparently the New York Times as well, who also took this money. I've been predicting for years you're going to find out that the Mockingbird media has been being underwritten by the government. And let's just think about the Twitter files. We talked about this. How many times did I say, do you think that the corruption of the government controlling media ends with social media? You think that they just thought of this then? Never forget that to his credit, and I mean it, to his credit, Barack Obama said publicly they wanted to put FCC observers in the newsrooms in America to make sure that the news was being reported fairly. He said that. And maybe maybe he was looking at the spreadsheets. We could save some money here. Just tell them we'll put them in prison if they don't toe the line. Why are we paying them? President Trump had spoken about USAID.
Well, it's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
It's a very Trumpian response. Left-wing lunatics, will get them out, then we'll make a decision. USAID put out a video. Free speech, you know. For them, not for us. And in it, there's the most interesting thing, the most interesting little statement from USAID on the topic of censorship. Here is part of that video. Countering Disinfo, a guide to promoting
Disinformation has invaded online conversations on social media platforms, posing challenges to healthy information environments and threats to democracy. It bolsters authoritarians, weakens democratic voices and participation, exploits and exacerbates existing social cleavages, and silences opposition. Countering disinformation and promoting information integrity are necessary priorities for ensuring democracy can thrive.
Incidentally, if you're not seeing the video, democracy is the communist fist, just so you know. That's their image of democracy.
The CEP's Countering Disinformation Guide is a resource including 9 thematic sections and a comprehensive database of interventions.
One of the thematic sections, incidentally, is strategic silence. The propaganda of silence.
Highlighting various approaches for advancing information integrity and strengthening societal resilience to disinformation and other harmful online campaigns. The International Foundation for Electoral Systems, International Republican Institute, and National Democratic Institute developed this guide with support from USAID through the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening. Here are 9 key takeaways from the guide.
Let's do it.
Addressing disinformation requires a whole-of-society approach.
Okay, so whole of society, and we're going to do that by secretly paying the Mockingbird media, got it, by censoring some and not others, by pretending significant news events didn't happen, got it.
We need to create a sense of urgency to drive collective action for addressing disinformation.
There's the communist fist again. We need to create a sense of urgency to drive action for addressing disinformation, because the government would never put out disinformation.
Institutions and platforms have the resources to address disinformation, but lack credibility.
Oh.
Whereas civil society has the credibility, but is chronically under-resourced.
Institutions and platforms have the resources to address disinformation, but lack credibility. Whereas the civil society has the credibility, but is chronically under-resourced. Hey, this will help drive trust in institutions and platforms. Secretly paying money to the Mockingbird media, that's going to help big time.
Countering disinformation requires a mixed methods approach, including fact-checking, monitoring, and other interventions. Focusing on major events like election outcomes alone will not achieve a healthy information environment.
Okay, and?
Developing norms and standards, legal and regulatory frameworks, and better social media content moderation is necessary for a healthy information ecosystem.
Moderation by who? Oh, that's right, the fact checkers who were getting paid by government. And the video from USAID continues.
It is important to establish frameworks to discourage political parties from engaging in disinformation. Not sure where to start?
I know where to start. Dig further into your paper where you talk about your framework, including strategic acts of silence. In other words, coordinated efforts to not talk about things important to Americans. That would be a great place to start in this USAID. Remember Nina Jankowicz? She was the lady who sang songs about disinformation from Mary Poppins. You remember her, nutty, weird lady? She said on social media, a very short story about why USAID is important for American interests. In 2012, Putin expelled USAID from Russia. In the aftermath of widespread protests against the regime, aid became one of Putin's scapegoats for support of Russian civil society, including election monitors. To which Mike Benz responded, "Why is USAID funding Nina Jankowicz's internet censorship project in London?" Indeed, why are they? Why are they funding any of this? Well, because it's been laundered money. Laundered money is a lot harder to track down. After all, when it goes from the government and they take their rake to USAID's part of the government and they take their rake to NGOs and they take their rake, once it washes down into, say, Bill Kristol's media and advocacy platforms or to the BBC or to the AP, it's light a bunch of percentages, but they don't care. If you are a reporter and you work for any of these entities, please, I beg you, I pray, you will look back to that time in your youth where you decided you wanted to be a reporter so you could speak truth to power, where you could use the First Amendment right to speak freely and to associate freely and, of course, to express our faith freely and to live our faith, but also to be a member of the free press. Because you taking money secretly from the government are the very, very opposite of a free press. The opposite.